Hello. I've often wondered where people are coming from and where on earth are they going to? Well, on this podcast, I'm going to find out the answers to those questions and more. And as my guests come to you over the miracle of the internet, whether they be hundreds or thousands of miles away, you may experience some snap, crackle, and pop. So, wherever you are, it's time to activate the senses as we bring you the words as they come across the world, as we bring you the Nifty Travel Podcast. So, understanding that you've done a bit of teaching abroad, how did you get into that?
Yeah. So I knew at the time when I was in college that I wanted to work in international affairs. And I knew that this is a difficult space to get in because you have to know people, you have to work very hard to work in policy. There's a lot of different ways to get into it. But I wanted to get direct experience in these countries so that I can prove, hey, I've lived in these countries.
So I would personally recommend you to come to Colombia first. It's also a gateway into South America. But I have to warn you that if you do come to Colombia first, you might not want to continue because that's what happens to a lot of people that start in Colombia. That then they delay their trips to the other countries because they discover that there is so much more to see.
I'm most passionate about sharing content for young women who don't really see themselves in the digital nomad space, right? So this is young women who don't see themselves as, Instagrammers or content creators, who don't work in tech, who maybe come from not a large city, but from a rural or Midwestern background, right? Women who come to me saying, well, it's so cool that you do that, but I could never do that, right? That's who I write for. I write for what I wish someone had written for me, right? Um, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been in a lot of dangerous situations. I've also made a lot of great choices. And I've also been in a lot of happy accidents, right? So I try and take all of that experience and kind of hand it down in a sisterly way, right? Of course, my audience is predominantly women, but a lot of these kind of wisdom nuggets are pretty universal, right? In terms of making friends, the most common thing I hear about solo travel from women is that they're worried about safety. The most common thing I hear from men is that they are worried that they won't make friends.
One thing that always seems to come up from time to time is whether Australia will jump in and go for high-speed rail. Now, do you think this is a real project, or is it just a dream?
Well, in my own personal opinion, I think Sydney needs, I think Australia needs high speed rail on the, on the East Coast. It's, we still, are on, on the same network that we had 150 years ago. Our other transport networks, road and air, have developed so much since then. But the rail network hasn't developed. And and along the East Coast between Brisbane, Sydney, and Canberra, Melbourne, we have there's a lot of we have the capital cities and also a lot of regional towns as well who could which are well within the zone where high-speed rail or even, fast intercity rail travel, so maximum, 200 kilometers per hour, similar to, a lot of, LNER services, in the UK, would be viable for like Sydney to Canberra and stuff like that, even that cheaper, developments like that. But I think, longer term, high speed rail is definitely something that we will look into.
And for me, it's here's the way I tend to see life. I see life as a dance, and I see life as like that. One of my favorite quotes is, "Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain." And the way I see this in relation to travel is that there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. There's going to be times where you're feeling super grateful and you experience the thing you want to. And there's going to be times where you're disappointed because you didn't get the service, didn't get the outcome that you really wanted. And for me, as much as I hate disappointing, I hate not having the thing that I really want, that gives me the perspective. I need to really value the times when I do get the thing. And so for me, it's not necessarily about I arrive at the destination, that's one thing, or the journey is another. It's really about, okay, this is all just part of the journey, so to speak. And I know at some point down the line, everything that goes up must come down, and everything that goes down must go up. It's like the stock market.
Thriving area for marine mammals and wildlife. And just incredible some of the encounters you get. People often, when they come on these trips, so I've spent 2 summers guiding on Vancouver Island doing these sort of wildlife tours. And people, when you ask what their expectations are, what do you want to get out of the trip, they often say, I want to kayak as close to a whale as possible. And then you tell them, well, wait until you see one. And then, we're fortunate that a whale pops up, and then they're like, should we back up? Like, yes, definitely back up. Because once you realize how big these things are, the size of a school bus going past you, you don't want to go anywhere near them.
So there you have it. Please do like and subscribe now to see the full recordings now. Enjoy.